Hi folks, thanks for stopping by for another Dino Bar Park tour. This time it's Gemma Park, a park I built without doing interim videos with bills. So this one is also a little bit different because I'm presuming that all of the possible start animals, the ones that the devs early on confirmed as animals that were going to be in the game at launch. And obviously they were not here, so there'll be a number of implied habitats. Also, I'm assuming that this park was built starting from scratch, having to build up and begin with small, easier to care for animals and work the way up to a, a more exciting park. Uh, so this is the entrance building. There's an information center on one side and restrooms on the other. Pretty basic facilities for an entry building. You probably noticed that there are two habitats on the far end of the building, and let's take a look at those. This one is our old friend Microraptor, obviously confirmed for um, early access because it's in alpha, and there's a cross corridor that both of the facilities open onto, and it opens also onto the park. So by passing by one of these exhibits, guests can uh, move out into the park if they want to. I've got Microraptors in here because the second mini exhibit animal has not been announced. Uh, whether it's for beta or early access, we'll find out, I guess. Uh, anyway, I did change the environment so it would look different. And, I'm not a lot more to say about that. I've done similar things before. The last archway takes you out toward this central uh, area that has paths going in a number of different directions. Off to the right is a restaurant. Off to the left is one of those first animals, a 1 or 2 star animal, and a habitat animal rather than a mini exhibit animal. So let's go see what's going on there. You can see that you can also view these habitats from the park side of the entrance building. So it's Jadoka Dunes. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Uh, Protoceratops. It's confirmed for early access at least. Don't know if we'll be seeing it in beta or not. It's an arid environment. I went with a more rocky look for this one. And it's a small animal, so this should be enough space. Because it's a arid, arid dwelling animal, you don't really want it exposed to the heavy rains that comes with a tropic environment. So hence the glassstenic enclosure. So we're going to take the path around. You can see it goes further, and there's some more arid looking terrain there. There's several more animals in that formation, also relatively small ones, so I'm leaving space for them. This is a covered walkway where you can look at the exhibit from the other side. And you can see plants waiting for the animal to show up. It's got a little shelter there. It's just ahead of us there to the right. So this opens to the other side, and there's a building we'll come back to. So let's head back toward the central area, past the welcoming plinth, which will also have directions eventually, and head over to the other side and take a look at the restaurant area. It's situated out here in a pond, basically. It used to have tables there, but one of the alpha glitches took them away. So you can see the water and the landscaping here, and the guests on this patio would have been able to enjoy that. We're going to go around the building, assuming it doesn't interfere too much with our travel, a little bit, and take a look at this kind of swampy pond that the exhibit is in the midst of. Excuse me, the restaurant is in the midst of. But our guests out here on the back patio will have a lovely natural environment to gaze upon as they enjoy the wonderful cuisine at the T-Rex Cafe. So let's get back on the bridge. Get back on the bridge and go across to the central area again and take a look at what would be the fourth of our starter animals. And it's our old friend Nasutoceratops, getting pride of place here as the biggest of the starter exhibits with his own water. And Nasuto is a 2-star animal, so it's sort of the most interesting animal you can start with. And in the distance you can see the genetics lab. Now I have 3 or maybe 4 Nasutoceratops in here, very close to or at the usual social group for this animal. They do like to lounge in the water. Yes, I know you do. And they seem pretty happy in here. Guests can get pretty close to them, as you might gather. I didn't put a standoff fence on this. Perhaps I should have, but I didn't. There are several information screens around the habitat, so let's head off around this way. And we will come up on one that's pretty close to the fence. Hello. So as you can see, lucky guests will be able to get quite a close view of these animals, since several of them seem to hang out near the fence and occasionally stick their heads through it. That's something that happens in alpha. I don't know if it will continue to happen in other iterations of the game. So there's our genetics lab and another pond to give it some context. And I named this one. Paleogenes is the operation that runs my Prehistoric Kingdoms. So you'll be seeing that name crop up some more in the future. You can see that the lab is set pretty far in from the entrance. And that is an effort to make it more accessible to more of the park once things get developed. It's a trick I used in Planet Zoo. It seems to make the staffing stuff work more easily. So, we're headed now down the path toward the Jurassic portion of the park. And you can see we've got a habitat right here. And this is one of those original 50 animals, or habitat for one of those original 50 animals, not yet confirmed, even showing up in EA or beta. So it may be a while before I have somebody to put in here. It's a arid environment, as much of the Triassic apparently was. There's an elevated area because this is a small animal. It's got a shelter in the back, and I'm envisioning the keepers coming in just to the left of that boulder on the left of the exhibit. There's further arid landscaping here for perhaps the other dinosaur companion from the 50, Plateosaurus, but not just yet. So several small animals so far, and we're going to I think, let's see, what shall we do? Shall we go further into the Jurassic or go back toward the Cretaceous side? Jurassic it is. And we'll see another small animal, also not confirmed yet for either beta or EA, but one of the 50. And you can see a staff building on the left there that has a gate to a road that goes to the genetics lab and the facilities around that. So you can see this is a large exhibit despite being for a small animal. And if you were a fast reader, you saw that it is Dryosaurus. This one has a Passover for the animals. from one side of the path to the other. And there is a standoff fence for these animals. They don't require a lot of security to keep them in, or at least that was the expectation. And we'll see if it stays. The overpass for them also provides shelter areas to either side for them to take cover and sleep and whatever else they want to do in there. So one of the things I'll be doing in this video is pulling up several times so it's not always just guest eye view, so you can get an idea of the layouts in the exhibits and what I was doing in that regard. So back down to guest level. You may have noticed I put together a street light, and you'll see it throughout the park. Obviously it doesn't function in alpha, but night is coming in beta. So if this park survives, maybe it'll work, but there will also be lights coming with beta as well. Ahead of us is the Morrison Overlook, and you can see 4 animals on the list there. Only one of them is confirmed for beta. Brachiosaurus, or is it Argentinosaurus? Anyway, one of the other big sauropods is confirmed for early access, but Stegosaurus is still unknown when it will arrive in Prehistoric Kingdom. So this is a look out onto the river and sort of a riverside or possibly a delta area for the Morrison area. And obviously this park has boat rides. You can see one coming under the bridge and one at the dock. They don't work because we don't have any rides yet. But I built a boat out of modular pieces and makes a good scene setter anyway. So let's go take a look at that. The concept is it's for Jurassic Falls cruises. If you paid attention to the distance just before we turned onto the walkway here, you saw a bunch of rock, and that's where the waterfall would be. There's an elevated section of the park there. So we've got a cattle chute to line our guests up where they can wait for space on a boat. We'll jump the barrier here. And there's a little waiting area for the attendant who will count off heads and send them down the wharf to get on the boat. And the boat attendees will drop the rope when the boat is clear of the previous guests so they can get on board and take their seats for the cruise tour. So it will go out and go under the bridge there where you can see the other boat coming back, visit the falls, and then cruise by the Morrison exhibit, do a turnaround and cruise by that exhibit you just saw on the right when we looked downriver. So let's hop aboard and get a little bit of a sense of how guests will see things. Let's not walk through the benches. Yeah, that exhibit down there, it's got an animal in it, but it's a stand-in because that's the Torvosaurus exhibit. And although confirmed for beta, this is not beta yet. So let's go back ashore and continue our tour of the Jurassic portion of the park, which means going over that bridge we've been looking at. And there's that rock wall ahead in the distance where the falls will be. So a little bit of shade for our guests passing over the bridge. And we're headed toward the sauropod encounter structure. A little bit of a glimpse of what it looks like from the bridge, what the habitat looks like. And this I envision as a place where the guests would have a chance to possibly feed a sauropod some sort of treat when it comes up. Has an elevator tower for our accessibly challenged guests. There's an enclosed viewing area on the 2nd floor and a wall that's too tall, so the stairs are not available to get guests up to the feeding platform. So this is a feeding platform. Don't really have a way to represent that up here very well, but it gives you a great elevated view, sort of a sauropod's view of the habitat. The habitat's relying on deep water to keep the animals in on the park side, and as you probably notice, cliffs on the far side to keep them in, and fences in a couple of places. Uh, so let's take the elevator down. It's not a real functional elevator, but we'll pretend. And down we go. And oops, getting out early. Nope. Next one. All the way down. And turn around, come out of the elevator, and you can see there's a little archway leads right out to the bridge, and clearly I need some grass trimming. But if we go out this archway, let's go out the archway. Come on. Out the archway. On the left, there's a viewing area for guests who don't want to go upstairs. They can get a look out onto the Morrison Plain, possibly see a sauropod feeding, and just enjoy the animals. Over the bridge again, at some point there might be a safari into that kind of area, and that would be cool. Oh, look, did she go on the boat? She certainly got down the wharf. Huh. I'll have to keep my eye on that. There's one coming off. Okay, so apparently our guests can go aboard the boat, even though they can't take a boat ride. That's kind of neat, even if it does mean they're walking through the ropes. Oh, hello. Yes, jump on the railing. They do make those high leaps. Don't much care for that, though. Straight ahead, you can see the road that leads to the Triassic. And now, straight ahead, you can see the Torvosaurus viewing area. Very similar to the Morrison Overlook. I basically copied and duplicated and made a couple of tweaks. Oh, hello. Yes, yes. We have a Leatherhide Rex playing Torvosaurus in this park. A little bit bigger than the Tarbosaurus, who was playing Torvosaurus in a previous park. I put in 2 meat trays. Probably ultimately take one away, but the idea was one which would encourage the animals to eat. What are you doing with your head in a rock? Encourage the animals to eat where they could be seen from the viewing platform, and also to encourage them to eat on that elevated area where they can be seen from the river, and they can be enriched by gazing across the river to the herbivores in the other habitat. They have a shelter in the back there, and they'll go in there. We jump out onto the river here. You can see there's rock screening from the riverside and a wharf to bring supplies to this habitat. And in the back there, you can see the care building. So let's get back on the river for a bit. So our guests will be able to see the Torvosaurus quite close. Again, the deep water should be preventing him from grabbing a snack from a passing boat. But that, of course, is subject to change as the game develops. And it might need other kinds of precautions to keep our guests from being snacks. So this is a guest eye view from the boat of the exhibit to give you an idea of what it will look like. A lot of times the animal will be in the back part of it and won't be visible from the boat. But that's the way it works with animals. So the boat will cruise down here, turn, come around that rock, go past the Morrison Overlook, and come up to the dock. And oh look, we have someone joining us. Well, our tour of the river is over, so it's time to take the cue of that young lady and hop out and head on to more of the park. So I spaced the exhibits out in this park a bit in order to have expansion room without having to tear a lot of stuff up. We'll see how well that kind of strategy works out. I just don't know. There's so much we don't know yet about how the game will play. So back down the path into the Jurassic and to the Central Plaza. We'll be going by that Nasutoceratops exhibit in the genetics lab. And our next stop is another implied feature of this park. It is the flight of the dinosaurs. This is basically a raptor show in the modern sense rather than a dino sense. I'd love to have some art to add to that sign, but we're kind of limited. So we've got a round building. Guests queue up here, and at rope drop, they'd be able to enter this sort of seating amphitheater in the concrete there. You can see our guests just have to step on the little perches out there for bringing the animals up close for a view to the audience. We've got 2 pedestals for part of working with the animals, possibly having them fly from one keeper to another. And in the back, a length of perches with baffles all along the way so our animals don't get upset that there are other animals there. Behind here, if I can get myself in, this is where the animals will be kept preparatory to the show. It's got grating above to keep them from flying out, and it would have similar perches or enclosures back there to keep them ready. So exit only out this side. You can see the God, I can never say that. Anyway, the goby area, and the path splits here. One goes around the goby area, and the other goes ahead to split again. You can see, let's go right. Yes. And it splits again. A little mound here. And you're getting glimpses there's something beyond that that might stand some checking out. Another split. But I can see a habitat sign with an animal name on it. So let's go that way. And it says Lambeosaurus. This exhibit was part of the plan to build up gradually. And the sign on the other side of this viewing area says Styracosaurus. And that would have been the first animal in because it's a lower star rating than Lambeosaurus. They both come from the same formation, so the formation can be opened up when you go after Styracosaurus. Right now we've got Lambeosaurus showing up in here, but you could catch glimpses of the viewing building, the elevated viewing building, on the far side behind this Lambeosaurus, whose tail goes through the wall, which they have a tendency to do. It's another thing that may or may not get cleared up. The animals have long tails, and it's problematic. So this is a bear paw forest area. You can see the rocks. You can see seats for the guests to sit and watch the animals if the animals happen to be hanging out near the window. As we pull up to look at it, you can see they have water, and there's a viewing area. They have a shelter underneath the viewing area, which is Styracosaurus sized. I don't know if the hadrosaurs could cram themselves in there. They really shouldn't be able to, but it's a game. It's not much higher than this, which is a pass-through to the next exhibit. And when originally built, you saw the cursor go up and down there. Those were doors that were closed. So you can build this exhibit and the crossover before adding the other animal. So that should be a strategy to help not overrun your financing in building the zoo. Uh, don't know yet. May find out in beta. We'll see. So let's walk around this area and take the stairs up to the overlook. Up the stairs. Seating area here for tired stair climbers. Nothing much interesting to see out that way yet. Up another leg of stairs, and now we're on the platform. There's a care shelter area for the animals over there, and we have glass, seats, and good views of the habitats and the animals. Oh, go running off just because we came to look at you. So, oh, lie down. Now we're over here. You're going to lie down next to the fence. Okay. Okay, we got your number. The expansion here, it was in part because the Styracosaurus would be the first animal in and wanted to make sure they drew guests. The other side started out as the Lambeosaur exhibit. Then I opened it up and pretty much all the Styracosaurs wanted to move over here. So there's their shelter, and the Styracs use that. And beyond that, you can see a facilities building and a shelter for another habitat. More water for them to drink and splash through on this exhibit. Trees and mountains in the background for ambiance. And yeah, it's mostly open just to give these animals plenty of room to move around. And we follow this down, take the stairs down, and we've got another up-close view, this time into the what was originally the Lambeosaur exhibit, and of course is now the shared Bear Paw Forest exhibit with these animals capable of being in either part. Yeah. Okay. So, yes, make your noise. And screens for them. This joins a path that comes around on the road we didn't take. So we're going to kind of go through that area backwards rather than going forward to the climax of the Mesozoic. And here we have a Tarbosaurus habitat. To go up the stairs, well, we'll pretend we're going up the stairs, we'll do it through the air, and I can see one moving out there. Yeah, and it's really Tarbosaurus this time. Oh, there's a second one too, and laying down in the bushes. So another covered viewpoint area. There is a moat, so the guests don't have to be completely enclosed. A little more naturalistic view of the habitat. Tarbosaurus likes a fairly forested environment, so there are a lot of plants in here. And it gives it a different vibe from the other Tyrannosaur exhibit, which is just fine. Roar. Yeah, they do that a lot. So, what else to say about this? You know, obviously they have their water, they've got food, and let's head on over to their companion exhibit. Down the stairs. And these are unified with this archway effect. These two exhibits. And down along the path. And we will come to another one of those gates. Turn in. And you can see a much bigger building. But over there, a little space reserved for a guest facility building, gift shop or a snack stand or something. There's an open air platform that you can go up to and see that exhibit. and access to the elevator for our accessibility challenge guests. We've got a platform here directing you to look out over the Tarbosaurus habitat to give you a different view of it. And where are they? Where are they? There's one. So, it's a little more hide and go seek with the animals in this habitat. But he's going to come out and show off. You want to roar for us, Stu? Yeah, the cursor circled another one hiding in the shade. Yes, thank you. I did ask for a roar, didn't I? They can wade into this water. They're probably not going to do it for us because we're watching. And I mentioned it. But seems to be a good size for them. Oh, yeah, roar. They've got a shelter and care building in the back there. You can see the roof. So we go up the stairs. Oops. To this elevated area with an information screen, and also this is where our accessibility guests would be let out, and they've got a ramp just to the left of these stairs. Nope, don't really want to fall through there. And we have a swampy kind of environment here, and a large one at that. And this is for an animal that's been confirmed for early access. I didn't manage to get its name put in, but this is for Dinocurus. This sometimes nicknamed killer goose, although I don't know how much of a killer it would be. It probably was an omnivore. And it's a big animal, probably needs good space. And, it's about the size of a Tyrannosaurus rex. So not a small animal. Don't walk into the wall. Let's take the elevator down again. So through the door, down we go, and just one flight this time. Pop out through the door, and we're in this little alcove, and we will go up and remind ourselves of that, and head out this other archway and on to this main path, which will offer you a view of the portion of the habitat. Again, there's deep water between these reeds and the rest of the habitat that should keep the animal contained. And we're going to go back along this way, and there's another one of our thematic arches, and go down this path because there are some more viewing points down here. These little domed areas, yeah, which sort of like a duck blind, I guess, to look out into the exhibit. The rocks are the barrier here, so the animals have the potential to get pretty close to the viewers. I'm going to need shush signs eventually. So an aerial pop-up, you can see that there are actually 3 of these little duck blinds. And it's a big pond area. Most of it's very shallow. And in the far back, the shelters and care areas for the animals. There's an access road for the staff that skirts around outside this exhibit. So let's get back down to guest level. There we go. We're going to backtrack a little bit here because we came from the other side. Head down the road and just past the Tarbosaurus viewing platform, we have a place where you can look into the habitat from yet another angle. And if the animals come, as this one just was, up to the edge of the moat, you'll get a good view of them. So on to the road. This is a longish stretch again because of the anticipation that I will need more habitat space along here. And we're headed for the end of the Cretaceous, which you should know by now means Hell Creek. Oh, there is one of our animals, and it's a Hadrosaurus, and this is Regalis. Yes, thank you for your noise. Um, this area right now really isn't containing the animal. It's just not coming down that slope. And after I filmed this video, I went back and added a bunch of rocks that it won't pass to make sure the animal stays in the exhibit. So up the ramp, and a brief hiatus of ramp walking, and from the ramp you can look in there, and brief hiatus from ramp climbing, and off to the left there is the potential of taking the guests out to another habitat area, and a second ramp to get up to the regalis level. You can see a big sign saying staff. We've got paired staff buildings because they have an access road that crosses the path here, and a viewing platform for the Edmontosaurus. Up the stairs, up the stairs. Information signs, and an open exhibit with a standoff so that you can see the animals without them sticking their heads into the viewing area. We've got a minimum social group here. Pull up and you can see they have a stone passover between the two portions of the exhibit. There's shelters in the back near the park facilities. So let's go take a look at them. We'll come back down to guests, or in this case staff level, excuse me, and go through the airlock doors here. And our keepers can get a close look at the animals here along this fence. And we're going to have to duck our heads to go under the animal overpass. It's got stone railings for them to discourage them from falling down on staff. And facilities building where things would be fabricated, food can be stored. The back side of the genetics lab, that's the Edmontosaurus shelter. And we come around the facilities building. You can see there's a power plant back there. And we just glitched up because I hit a boundary of a building. And there's a road that goes up to the Bear Paw animal care access. And so go through the narrow bit, bounce up and come back down. This is our vet building for this park. Relatively small. A lot of the animals are big and their care has to be undertaken in their habitat. So, a garage door for the intake of animals, and several pens for recuperating animals before they're put back out on exhibit. Very minimal facilities for them here. The fences are low because the animals will be small. And this path goes to that staff building we saw on our way to the Jurassic. So the staff has roads that let them cross the park without having to share the heavily trafficked guest paths. They can cross from one side to the other. You can see the elevated section there to the one side, and that's up at the Hell Creek level. So a little transition there because I kept bumping up trying to get through, and all the way back and down, get through the tunnel and get back to the guest path. Sticking his head through the fence just like the Nasuto did. And we're back on the main path now. There's also space here that I can add some more exhibit animals as necessary. And we're going to head to the Tyrant's World. And there's a door for our accessibility challenge guests so they can get to the elevator to go up. And for the bulk of the guests, it's ramp time. Some of them will insist on walking on the railing, a practice not to be encouraged. And the platform area also provides a view into the Edmontosaurus exhibit, and they can get quite close. In fact, too close. So again, after this video was cut, I went back and did a standoff with some vegetation to keep the animals from being right there. Up the next level of the ramp, and a more or less scenic overlook, nothing special to see in the way of animals. And up here to the overlook pavilion. Ahead of us, you can see buildings. Here, there's a general area. I imagine some entertainment taking place on the green area occasionally. Hence, people would line that railing to watch it. The actual Tyrannosaurus exhibit is to the right. We've got restrooms and a T-Rex cafe in the center, and another facility down the other end. And it's the Hell Creek Adventure Trek. This is an implied safari tour. So our guests would enter through this one. You'll see them coming in through the other one, but the idea is they would enter through this one, enter the doors, and here's the waiting line. You can see people trying to use it already for them to board the safari vehicles. Obviously, I need to fix the height on that little bit of work in the arch. Something else I have to come back to do. So this guy seems to be doing a good job of running the cattle chute. I'm going to watch him and see if he will go all the way and then come back out the exit. And he takes the turn, and he stops staring at the door. Well, and then he's going to come back out the way he went in. Oh well, it was worth a try. You can see the little bit of railing there that would separate the boarding guests from the departing guests, and they come down that chute. Over here we have a waiting area for people who don't want to go out on the safari when other members of their party do, or people who just want to take a break, look out over the park's currently wild countryside, possibly wander down to this end of the waiting area, get a glimpse of animals in the habitat out there that the safari would go through. You know, it's an option for our guests. I haven't seen a lot of them come out. Oh, sure, one's going to come out here and stand there just because I was about to say. I haven't seen a lot of them actually come into this area. And you know, maybe if we get something like information boards, that would bring some in there to check that stuff out. Definitely got to fix that entry area. So we're going to go out the exit like you're supposed to. Follow the path out, past all these people coming in on it, and back to the courtyard, and go to the Hell Creek viewpoint. In through the doors, into the lobby. You can see stairs left and right. There's an elevated and a lower viewing area. The lower viewing area, which we go in here, has an area in the center, which I would love to have a statue or two on. And viewing windows, seating areas. You can see that it's open to the upper level. It also needs a grass trim. And there's a standoff to keep the animals from getting too close. And you can see right now we've got Edmontosaurus and Nectons out there. By early access, we'll be able to add Triceratops because it's been confirmed for early access. Yeah, if I recall correctly, that kind of covers the confirmed so far early access animals that would be suitable for Hell Creek. The famous 50 would also add Ankylosaurus. And could possibly squint your eyes a little bit and use Gallimimus as Struthiomimus. Thescelosaurus, one of the original 50, was canceled, unfortunately, because that little guy would have been right at home here. So there is a window mostly for light in the safari tour building. So that's a look. It's a pretty large area, potential for expanding. And that's because I might need to separate the animals into separate areas for care purposes, or just to make the safari tour more easy to run. You saw the back of T-Rex Cafe there, so they would have a look into the exhibit. And then across the way, you can see a feeding pan with meat on it, and I bet you can guess what's out there, even if it's not going to show up right now. But that's an area for Tyrannosaurus to stare at the Edmontosaurus or Triceratops and think about what might have been. The dry moat there keeps the animals from each side from joining the other one. So let's head back. Oh, you're going to stand up so we can go by. That's nice of you. Feeding pan out in front of the viewing pavilion. Oh, good grief. I have not figured out how they're getting up there. But guests do seem to like to stand on the portico roof. Oh well. We'll go past the cafe and the restrooms and head for King's Court. A pile of rocks there, perfect place to put a statue. A little tranquil pond off here to one side. Haven't figured out how the guests are going to get to those benches on the outside of the information center, but they will. And got another area, walk right through the planter white and on top of the plinth that's supposed to have a statue on it. Anyway, a large screen, because I could envision a movie running there continuously. The doors in the wooden wall lead to the elevator right there. To get our guests, challenged guests can go up there and get an actually higher view than the normal guests into the Tyrannosaur exhibit. So stairs left and right to take them upstairs and through the archways to the ground level viewing area. Around the planter. Ah, there's a Rex out there. So mostly open here. It's more forested off to one side, although the plants aren't quite right. Come beta they can be, because we will be getting coastal biome. And a pond for drinking. There's the one that, yeah, through the fence you can see the Tyrannosaur working out treadmill instead of going to stare at Edmontosaurus like I would have hoped for this video. This is the Brumal skin, the partially feathered version of Tyrannosaurus. Probably not the most scientifically accurate take, but there are people still holding to the fact that the adults might be feathered. But so far, no fossils have turned up that actually showed feathers, and there have been some skin impressions that show scales. So, 2 of the skins will be scaly, and 1 will be Brumal with its partial feather skin. So let's pop up here, check out the accessibility viewing area. A little bit higher, a little bit more panoramic view. You can see that Tyrannosaur on the treadmill just fine. And let's take our helicopter and take a look at the whole Tyrannosaur area. You can see they can come right to the edge of the cliff, so there is the potential for them to come and broadcast from the edge, be heard all over the park. And there's Jurassic Falls, except it's not a falls yet. And that's where the boats would come and turn around in the deeper water area there. And look out toward the Jurassic and Triassic wing of the park as we pan across the central plaza, our park facilities in the foreground, Bearport just beyond it, and the Edmontosaurus exhibit, the Regalis exhibit. Beyond it, the Dinoceras swamp, and then all the way back around to the climb to the Tyrant's Kingdom. And this is Gemma Park, and probably the last you'll be seeing from Dino Bob for a bit, because I'm going to go on hiatus, because waiting for Beta to show up and do things with it. Thanks for stopping by. Be well and enjoy dinosaurs.